So one day I was guiding in Colima on this tour and I had this group of mentees. We were 60 kilometers from launch and we had flown up onto the flanks of Volcan Colima, this 12,500 foot incredible stratovolcano. And as we cored wingtip to wingtip in this perfect buttery smooth 3.5 meter a second climb, one of the mentees leaned out of his harness and he yelled into the group, "This is better than sex." Everybody giggled. And I came on the radio and I said, "Buddy, we got to work on your sex." And it's funny, but it's also a poignant thing to consider. And this video isn't actually about whether paragliding is better than sex or not. I'll let you decide. But it really does beg the question, how obsessed with paragliding should you be? Where should you place it in your life? And how can you place paragliding not only in your life, but in your heart, in your mind, in your time management, so that you can maximize your safety, your enjoyment, your performance, and your progression? These are the questions that I am going to answer today. Ready? Here we go. I'm an elite paraglider with over 3,000 flight hours and multiple distance records, founder of the Paragliding Men's Group, where great pilots transform into greater men, partners, and fathers. Mastery in the sky begins with owning our shit on the ground, so if you're a man who wants it all, welcome home. What's up, guys? This is Ari in the Air. Welcome back to the channel. Stoked you're here. Today, getting back to some philosophical inquiry with you. I was married last Saturday, 8 days ago. It was a wonderful thing, and one of my deep missions in my life is to paraglide myself silly every summer and also to stay grounded in my life and to stay safe. I'm so grateful for my health and my body and my working legs. So I don't want to break my legs, be paralyzed, crash, die. I really want to enjoy my time in the sky, have it enrich my life on the ground, and also have my life on the ground enrich my time in the sky. I think I've achieved this in a number of ways, and I'll share some of those with you. But to begin, let's just consider, my very funny mentee, Zach, who begged the question, is paragliding better than sex in that thermal in Mexico? He also has a deep desire to paraglide and have an amazing time with his buddies and be connected to his friends through paragliding and also have big relationships on the ground. So a lot of us, a lot of the men who are drawn to paragliding also have lives. We're not all dirtbags who want to live in a van and paraglide every second of every day. And we're also not all men who are trying to be the world champion. For most of us, paragliding is recreation. It's a way for us to enjoy our lives and to earn our own respect. Let's first talk about how positioning your paragliding career inside of your life can affect your safety. And this is so obvious, and there's a couple examples I want to give you here. One thing that I have said to people for a long time is the single thing that will help you be safest in paragliding is dinner plans. And this means that if you go out paragliding and you have nothing to lose, man, you're a dangerous pilot. Because in my life, I have so much to lose. I have a beautiful wife and I have amazing friends. I have a great business that is purpose-driven and I get to serve men and families. So my life is worth more to me than paragliding is. That helps me stay safe. So like I said, the single thing that you want to have in paragliding to stay safe is dinner plans. It's a life on the ground. You want to be a grounded man. If you have things that you want to go home for, if you have things that your psyche and your spirit and your mind are looking forward to, that will affect your decision-making in the sky so profoundly it's hard to overstate. So imagine you have a friend and he's someone that you really care about, but for a long time he's been struggling with depression. He's struggled with suicidal ideation, and now he comes to you, he's saying that he's stoked to start base jumping. You'd be a little concerned, right? If someone is not feeling really content in their own skin, if they don't feel really whole in their life, then doing something as fatally dangerous as hucking yourself off of a cliff with a parachute in your backpack seems suicidal. The term adrenaline junkie is, as much as I dislike it, it's painfully accurate. So to avoid spiraling out on the junkie part of paragliding, I recommend that men keep their lives grounded. Keep your feet on the ground spiritually so that in the air you can make really sound decisions, having a meta-cognitive awareness of how paragliding fits into the larger part of your life. Children at home, a wife at home, meaningful work, deep spiritual practice. These are all ways that you can almost guarantee that your decision-making will be sound when you're in the air. So the next question is, how does how you position paragliding in your life affect your progression? One of the most common things that people come to me with is that they are struggling with a sense of frustration in their paragliding. I've made lots of videos about this. A term that I coined on this channel was comparagliding, where people constantly compare themselves to other pilots, and they are basically dealing with a feeling of not enoughness, or that they're not good enough yet, or that they don't have deep respect for where they are. And in general, what I say to this is that the fastest way to get to where you want to be is to want to be right where you are. I became a professional skier in my early 20s, and then I learned a highline. I became a professional highliner, and then I learned to paraglide, and I've had a stratospheric ascent into this sport. And I can genuinely tell you that the most enjoyable part of any sport is learning. It is the progression. And so often men compare themselves to one another and they lose their enjoyment of the process itself, as if there is some destination that you are going to arrive to. I can assure you that day is not coming. As far as your progression is concerned, if you are struggling with frustration in your progression, you really just need to ground yourself in reality that as you learn a sport, you're going to suck at it. There's going to be failures. There's going to be people who are better than you. There's going to be all kinds of disappointments and frustrations. And these things are your spiritual path. These things are your path into manhood through paragliding. The amount of frustration that Paraglide has beat me over the head with has been so humbling. From my setting the Oregon State distance record and finishing top 10 in America and having lots of followers on the internet know me for paragliding. All of these things are little tiny landmines that if I step on them in the wrong way, they kind of just blow up my enjoyment, and they can spiral me out into taking more risk than I'm actually comfortable with, into being short with my friends, into not enjoying my flights as much. Like I've told stories on this channel of screaming and crying, having landed, 175K on a 400K day, having to walk 10 miles out with my comp kit, which was my penance. So all of these things, I've been paragliding for 12 years now. And so as people learn and grow, I try to encourage them to pick up the negative emotions that they feel in paragliding and use them as fuel for their personal development, use them as a mirror to show them where their heart is still yearning for approval and acceptance and belonging. It's different for everyone, but in general, paragliding is going to bring up things for you that you can use as fuel for your personal development, and I highly recommend that. And then finally, I want to talk about how if you position paragliding in your life correctly, it will just enrich your life so much more. I think that I've alluded to this in the previous points, but in general, I have literally watched people be frustrated out of paragliding. I have literally watched people be disappointed out of paragliding. They just weren't good enough, and they competed too much with the community, and it all came crumbling down. And this is a sad way to go out of paragliding. I feel like I've nearly done it myself. I've burnt out myself having paraglided so hard and for so long and been frustrated that I had to just step back. So being able to position paragliding in your life that it supports your capacity to be a father and to be a business leader and to be a husband and to be a partner and to be a friend to other men, to have a positive attitude when the conditions don't work, when you bomb out and are frustrated, all of these things. It's just, this is the test of a real embodied, mature man. It's really not whether or not he can fly really far or fly better than other people or do more tricks. It really has nothing to do with that. When you die and you go to the pearly gates and God judges you, the chance that he brings up anything related to paragliding other than your attitude and your service to other people is extremely low. So be careful who you're trying to impress, and be careful with where you're positioning paragliding in your life, because it does have the capacity to serve you endlessly and to teach you things that will fill you up. And I wish that for you. If this is the kind of inquiry that stirs you even momentarily, I encourage you to reach out to me. The Paragliding Men's Group is a place and a space where we do this kind of deep inner work in relationship to our flying and our families. And the Spring Tuneup, which starts in just a few days, is a wonderful opportunity, a very low ticket offer to come into space with other men and to discuss these kinds of things, as well as the hard technical skills of the most common paragliding malfunctions and the emergency procedures that you need to deal with them. The mental preparation tools that have you show up effectively in the heat of battle, and the philosophical implications of you flying in the first place. So thanks so much for watching. Love and lift, brothers. See you soon.